Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the going virtual theme of this year's World of Technology. We have just witnessed a really great conversation on specifically the technology related to augmented reality, virtual reality, and all kinds of immersive technology. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about all sorts of human machine interactions. So, this session will be talking about every different way a human can interact with computers or any kind of machines. Leading this discussion as the moderator is Naveen Manasvi. Naveen Manasvi is the CEO of Wow Technologies, which is transforming the industry with augmented reality and artificial intelligence through multiple offerings in the space across the education and e-commerce industries. He is recognized as one among global top two thought leaders in augmented reality, as well as one among global top 10 thought leaders in artificial intelligence. He has developed more than 12 enterprise AI products and solutions and 10 AR products across various verticals across nations. He is also an author of two books on artificial intelligence. Naveen completed his integrated dual degree in computational and engineering sciences from IIT Kanpur in 2004 and was also an adjunct faculty at IIT Kharagpur for AI courses. Please welcome Naveen on the stage. And Naveen, over to you for this session.
Yeah, thank you, Avikal. Thank you a lot. So, hi everyone. Great day for all of us. Today we have had great session with technology experts, and thanks a lot for giving us time today. I mean, we are right now. We are having the smartphones. We are having the AR VR devices. We are having the smart robots, smart cars, and multiple stuff and all. So I'm thinking about my grandfather and all. They don't have even phone. I mean, and how the humans evolve over 50 years with no telephone to the telephone to the phone to the smartphone to now AR/VR devices and Siri and a smart car and all. I don't know what's going on. What after 10 years, what will happen? No one knows basically. So we have great experts today, and I think let me open the panel for all of you. I would like to invite our guest speakers who are expert on this topic. Topic is human-machine interactions. We'll talk about human-machine interfaces, voice interface, and multiple interfaces, and how the brainy and cognitive power, how much they are having. So how Siri can evolve over time, also how our smart car can evolve over time, and how we can be smarter over the period, and how our social life will be after 5-10 years. So we can discuss from multiple perspective, and with us now we have Dr. Deepak Sekar, who is inventor with 170 patents, and his last startup is Robotics, very famous. I remember, I mean, robot which cooks, some breakfast item and all, and company got a lot of fame, and that's why it got acquired by Durdas in last year, I guess, last year, right? And then Deepak restarted a new company again. He has a habit of starting company, and he has a strong sense of the AI and all this technology and all. He's expert in this voice interfaces and NLP and all kind of technology, which improve the machine human interaction to some extent. And with also we have a Professor Mayank Vats. He's a professor at IIT Jodhpur, and he is instrumental in India's biometric movement. He had contributed a lot to the biometric IEEE Biometric Council, and his work also is acknowledged by UIDAI, Aadhaar card and all. And he designed the AI courses for IIT Jodhpur and Triple IIT Delhi. And he is quite passionate about AI, computer vision especially, and AR/VR. So, and we have Adit Jan. He is a CEO and a co-founder of Lina AI, and his company got Series B fund. And he IT Delhi pass out, and then Y Combinator alumnus, and he has a habit of starting a company. First company he built regarding chatbot. Then he changed. He just started a new company again on a chatbot. Now his company is known as a city of enterprises. So why Siri only for the home or for enterprises? So he had this question in the mind. So he started one company called Lina AI that tried to improve the chatbot services for the enterprises, and he has I think 2 million plus employees who are using his services, and 200 plus I think enterprises. So we have very expert panel, expert speakers, and I think audience. I mean, you will get a lot of insight today about how this HMI would look like in coming years and all. So I will just give over to Deepak. Deepak can add here.
Yeah, hey everyone. When I was asked to be on this panel, I tried to organize my thoughts together with some slides. So figured I'd start off sharing the slides first. So what I'm going to do is talk about interfacing with machines, just give a little bit of history and some lessons learned from the history, and then talk about where we are now. And the most interesting part is talking about the future and discussing what the future might hold. So the computers we use today, the human computer interfaces we use today, that they have a mouse and a keyboard and a monitor. And the first time we started using this in a commercial product was back in 1983, when the Apple Lisa came out. In fact, I know the guy who was the chief architect of the Lisa. His name's Rich Page. He was an Apple fellow back then. And Rich and I worked together almost 8 years. I called him up yesterday and I said, hey, I'm going to be on this panel. Can you tell me a little bit about how the mouse came up? And what he told me was Rich, Steve Jobs, and another Apple fellow called Bill, they went to Xerox PARC, and the Xerox PARC researchers had a mouse over there, and Steve saw it. And when he left the meeting, he told Rich, we got to have this on the Lisa. And then they did some homework and they found out the original patents on the mouse belonged to Stanford, to a Stanford research park, and they licensed the patents from the mouse and they put it in the Lisa. And we've been using the mouse ever since. And Steve was adamant that they would have only one mouse button on the mouse. And apparently he told Rich, they've got so many keyboard keys, they can use that. Why don't we just have one mouse button for the mouse? So that's a little bit of the history behind that interface. And then the next big change in interfaces happened in 2007. Again, Apple made a whole bunch of innovations and put them together in a practical way with the modern touchscreen. Now, one thing with interfaces you'll notice is new interfaces take time to evolve and get mature. So even though touchscreens started getting used in 2007, there's still a lot of people uncomfortable with them. And so my last company, like Naveen was saying, we built robots which made food. And there's 400 of these around the US. And so I had to, and they're used in restaurants and cafeterias and all. And so we did a lot of user studies when we put our product somewhere. And a lot of people still prefer to get their food going to a regular salad bar instead of going to a touch screen and ordering. And McDonald's found that as well. They have these kiosks in restaurants for ordering. And at least in America, people were not that comfortable using the kiosks, and sales were always higher getting the thing in person from a cashier. So even though touchscreens have been around for 12 years, there's still a lot of people not so comfortable using them. And so that's one thing to learn. When we have a new interface, there might be some early adopters, but it often takes 10 years or more for a good portion of the population to get familiar with a new way of interfacing with a machine. So that was a key lesson for me. And we had to optimize the heck out of our interface to get a whole lot of people to use it. So now the next frontier is really voice. And the voice solutions on the market still need a fair bit of work. So this is benchmarking from June of 2021. So pretty recent. And you'll see the word error rate. The best has been Amazon, according to this benchmark, where they still have around a 10% error. And for many practical applications, that's not good enough. And all of us have used, voice on our phone to type things for dictation, and we see the errors which come up all the time as well. And so the field still needs a fair bit of work. It's going to take a few years to get to a place where it can be used for mainstream applications in a pretty significant way. At least that's my view. But while speech to text is still got room for improvement, text to speech is fairly mature today. So my present company, Professor Jim, we build edtech products, and we play around with animations a lot. So, and we play around with voice a lot as well. So I just created a short, goofy video. When you look at this video, just observe the voice. The voice is completely electronic. It was not done by a human. And you can judge, you can kind of judge the quality of the text to speech from this video. So let me play it.
Hey, I'm Gordo, and I'm Professor Jim's assistant. You must be wondering how I'm talking. Well, when Professor Jim visited his friend Elon recently, Elon got naughty. He put a chip in my head. This chip interfaces with my brain and helps me speak English. By the way, you know what Elon told me recently? He said, "Gordo, you need to get an education." I told him, "Elon, I'll work hard on my studies. I'm going to try to get into IIT Madras. I hear that campus is beautiful."
So you probably guessed I did my undergrad from IITM, from IIT Madras.
There's a bias there. That's why there's a bias there.
So anyway, let me show you some of the research being done right now into better interfaces. This is really far out stuff, but this video is going to show you, what might happen the next 20, 30 years. I'm going to play this. Oops.
This is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learnt to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. We can interact with the Neuralinks simply by pairing them to an iPhone, just as you might pair your phone to a Bluetooth speaker. The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Pager's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region modulate their activity with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right. By recording from many neurons and feeding their activity into a decoder algorithm, we are able to predict Pager's intended hand movements in real time. First, we calibrate the decoder by recording neural activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen. As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. Our goal is to enable a person with paralysis to use a computer or phone with their brain activity alone. Because they wouldn't be able to move a joystick, They would calibrate the decoder by imagining hand movements to targets. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Pager to do is to play his favorite video game, Pong. To control his paddle, on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down. We've removed the joystick altogether. Now that he's up to speed, let's increase the difficulty and see how well Pager can play with the Neuralink. As you can see, Pager is amazingly good at Mind Pong. He's focused, and he's playing entirely of his own volition. It's not magic. The reason Neuralink works is because it's recording and decoding electrical signals from the brain. Great game, Pager. And what better reward for a monkey than a banana?
So it's kind of interesting.
We still have challenges spanning many fields of engineering. So if you're good at solving hard problems,
So it's kind of interesting how they got a monkey to play games like Pong just by reading its brain's thought patterns. So there's been work done in this space the last few years. We had both Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg investing in this. Neuralink, the company which did that video, is actually Elon Musk's company. And Mark Zuckerberg funded a whole bunch of work on reading the brain to develop a user interface as well. The main challenge with a lot of this is they rely on implants. And so implants could potentially work if there's a patient who has lost the ability to speak or something, and this helps that person. And Neuralink is focusing on that space first. Facebook wasn't too keen on doing implants to the brain because of all the PR issues that brings up. And so they were trying to see if there was a non-invasive way of doing that. So they actually funded some research on figuring out X-ray-like techniques where you could have near IR light shining on people and try to see if you can read brain patterns with that. And that work has not been very successful. It's not easy to figure out what the brain signals are in a non-invasive manner right now. And that should be a focus of a lot of research in the next few years. But it's kind of interesting that when you do a brain implant, people are actually a monkey is able to play Pong just based on brain impulses. And that's the case right now. And in 20 years, it should be a lot more advanced. So it reminds me of some of these cyborg movies I used to see in the 1990s. Yeah, so in terms of summarizing my thought process, right? When I think about how interfaces would evolve for general purpose computing, I don't mean for specialized applications like gaming. When I think about general purpose computing, day-to-day computing, we had the keyboard and the mouse in the 80s. We got one major upgrade with touch in a practical way after 2005 or so. And hopefully in this decade, voice is going to become mature, and we're going to have good voice interfaces with various machines. And I don't know if the brain interfaces are practical at all because of some of the ethical questions it brings up. But the technology, should have more and more people working on it in the next 20 years. And it should evolve a lot more than, what we're seeing today. So those are some of my thoughts on this. So let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, Deepak, for insightful Dick. And now, we can come to know about human-machine interface, and how it evolved over many years and where it is going and all. So let's try to understand from all of you experts. First is how the human-machine interface or interaction evolved over last 50 years, and how would it look like in coming 5 years. So Maybe I'll give to firstly start with Professor Mayank. What do you think where this HMI will go and how it look like right now?
So let me actually share one anecdotal example there. So we all know about cameras, right? So in 1800s, when the cameras were like first proposed, those were like bulky big cameras. Not everyone had luxury to own those cameras. Right? Even the first camera, which was actually for the public market, was also a big one. Right? Even a professional was required to actually capture the photograph. Like all the family was sitting, and then there was like someone looking inside the cloth-shaped room, like a small box and all those things. Then came those Polaroid cameras. Even those were also not very user-friendly, right? So, and if you see now, this is actually how a machine was evolving. In place of so if you treat this as like a camera as a machine, this is evolving over how actually it's growing from one to another. Like as the previous example of computers were like a mouse were, and now we had in early 2000 we had DSLRs. Now we have mirrorless DSLR, and forget about mirrorless or mirror DSLR. Now we have phones which are much smarter, right? And then probably at least the companies are claiming that these photographs are as awesome as you see from a SLR camera, right? So the way I look at it now, we should not be talking about HMI, like human-machine interface. We should be talking about human intelligent machine interface, or HIMI. So that is where actually the growth is heading. The machines are becoming intelligent, and then we should be actually working with the concept of that these machines would also actually behave and react based on the inputs that actually they would see, and how actually the UI UX should be designed of those machines, which can actually take care of the dynamic environment that actually they see. That's
Yeah,
what
great.
like
Yeah.
50 years to another 5 years.
Yeah, nice perspective, but yeah, it's a quite fresh perspective, by the way. When you kind of look on the HMI, we have to redefine the HMI. Yeah, Adit, to you.
You're muted, Adit.
Yes, absolutely, Naveen. So I think Dr. Deepak and Professor Mayank have captured a lot of about the history and how it has been progressing since 1980s till today. So I'll give you a perspective of the next 5 years. So being in the middle of conversational AI, being in the middle of the next wave of human-machine interfaces, I can tell you this, that a lot of the bulky work that we have to do over interfaces which are on laptops or on phones is going to get dumbed down to either chat or voice interfaces, and that's happening today. We ourselves as a company at Lean AI, we power 200 plus enterprises globally, Fortune 500s. To be able to do extremely complex tasks that will require data extraction from SAP, from Oracle, from really large ERPs, CRMs, and doing some intelligent mathematics, and then pushing it off to another action or to another application on a simple WhatsApp command, right? So we strongly believe in the next 5 years you'll have a very pervasive human machine interface of both chat and voice coming in, and with everything that's happening in the AR VR domain, we strongly believe that AR VR combined with conversational AI and NLU will enable people to do completely change the way they work today. So I believe that the way you look at a laptop or the way you work on a desktop or a laptop today will completely change over the next 5 to 10 years, given that these two technologies come together to give you an experience or a way of working that probably none of us can even imagine today. So thanks to the work that a lot of large companies, including Google, Facebook, have been doing on the AR VR front, and then a lot of different companies have been doing on the conversational AI and NLU front. I think imagining completely virtual workrooms and offices is going to be a reality, and that's where we see the world headed, and that's also where we are investing a lot of time, energy, and resources into. and hopefully we'll see that happen soon.
Oh, great. Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, in the coming years, like how would HMI look like? Example, like suppose you want to work remotely and the company has many employee right now. So they want to work together in a collaborative manner and all. Also for the like we have friends who want to play with us, want to talk to us. So how this kind of thing will evolve? How HMI would evolve in like will be there in coming 5 years in terms of social life or professional life and all? How the HMI will look like in coming 5 years in that way?
Absolutely. So we've done a lot of research, and we've invested a lot of time, energy also in this particular topic because it's extremely relevant. It's the core of what we do, right? So there are actually three things to be taken into account before you think about what the solution or what will it look like, right? Number one is practicality. People hate to travel hours to get to office, right? So, and the pandemic has proven that work can happen remotely, especially for the pink and white collars. The pandemic has told us that it's now probably stupid to ask everyone to come 5 days a week to the office, right? And nobody wants to travel 1 hour 2 hour every day. So that's a practical aspect of it. Number two is people do still like being around other people do still like meeting probably once a week, twice a week, thrice a week, whatever, and brainstorming, ideating, or getting their creativity flowing, right? People do love that, right? So uh, overall these two get distilled into my point number three. This is what we are seeing happen, and this is what we are foreseeing will also happen in the next 3 to 5 years, is that you'll have two specific things. Number one, you might see a lot of work happening in smaller pods, which are company rented or company created. So let's say in Delhi NCR, instead of having one office in Connaught Place or in Gurgaon or in Noida, the company might have 5, 6, 10 pods in very, very different location within a Delhi NCR region, and they will be equipped with very high technology AR VR devices, and of course NLP and LLU. What will this allow you to do is you go into those areas, and as soon as you go into them, you'll enter virtual offices of the company, right?
Yeah, true, very true. Just
And
like yeah, like having wear the glass, like the Facebook has launched now that workroom and all. So wear the glass, and your guy, your friend, your colleague can be in other part of the world, and they can work together. They can see the same digital room in 3D
exactly.
space, and you can have a same board, and you can have a same kind of deck somewhere and all. Even you can put 3D content design there, and they can work together. Yeah, I mean, it means you bet on the AR VR. You feel that the next HMI would be like AR VR medium, where we can really interact in a 3D space and we can have a same digital space. Correct? Am I right?
Absolutely. And it has
Yeah,
to be combined with conversational AI or NLU or NLP, because as soon as you enter that, your hands have to become free. You can only do pointing, right? You can point or you can do actions. That's it. You can't
yeah.
actually, type,
Yes,
or all that goes away. So it has to be backed with very strong NLP.
gesture based. Yeah, gesture based. Let's say कि once
Yeah.
you wear the device, your hand should be free, and suppose you're saying I'm talking to you, whatever. So our gesture can be enough. There should not be any keyboard and pressing button and all. We must whatever way we interact in real life should work there, right? Correct?
That's absolutely
So
correct. So you have gestures and you have words. That's it. So
yeah.
it has to be AR, VR, gestures, and NLP, NLU that makes a complete solution happen.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, yeah. NLP will really make it more human touch, basically. So, Deepak, what's your opinion? Like how HMI would look like in coming 5 years? AR, VR will take lead or not in that way?
Yeah, so I think voice is going to be a big thing. Regarding AR VR, right now it's largely used for gaming, honestly, and whether it becomes mainstream or not, I think the jury is still out. It looks very promising. There's a good chance it could be used, but I think the jury is still out on that. Uh, so with in terms of how the work could look 5 years from now or something, what I'm seeing here in the US at least, and I'm based in California, is I see a whole spectrum of opinions. There's some small startups where they can evolve the culture, and the demographic is where people like trying new things, and some of those startups are going all remote, or people are comfortable working through online stuff. On the other extreme, you have some companies doing things like hardware, or places where they can't afford to go remote because they have pieces of hardware to play with. So there's two extremes, and the bigger companies with well-established cultures where they're used to a certain style of working, they're kind of resistant to going online forever. We'll see how things go there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies will adopt a hybrid model. The bigger companies will adopt a hybrid model, and small startups, like in my company, for instance, we have everyone sitting anywhere they want. As long as they have a computer and they get work done, it's okay. And that gives us great flexibility with hiring and things like that, which we really like. In terms of whether, going back to your question on whether VR and AR will take over the world, I would say my opinion is the jury is still out. And I did hardware for a good portion of my career, okay, and getting people to buy a whole bunch of hardware devices and getting comfortable with them, it doesn't scale that well.
Yeah, now got the point. Yeah, nice perspective. So, Professor Mayank, what do you think about this?
See, I have a slightly different opinion, because I know from where Aditya Deepak came from, coming purely from industry, but being a professor, being in academics, I also have to look at the educational environment, right? In last 1.5 years of COVID has actually taught us one good thing. We really do not need buildings to have universities and institutions. The buildings are important. That's not, I'm not saying that completely remove them. But now we can actually reach out to much bigger masses. But our educational ecosystem is not ready for AR, VR yet. We are evolving, we are learning. In fact, when we had to switch from the in-person classroom to completely online mode, we had to, many of us actually, I saw many of my colleagues had to even learn how to even do screen share. Even Zoom was evolving, right? So all the portals were evolving. And that evolution is a part of the whole game. But what I mean to say is that there are sectors. Some sectors will grow faster, some sectors will grow slower. But there are some sectors like where, just not say AR, VR, if you call it as immersive mixed reality growth, then some sectors will actually take it to the big level, particularly in the medical domain, particularly in the education domain. These domains will actually should take actually lead in the immersive mixed reality domain. That's what my take.
Okay. Now nice point. So, what about the social world? Do you think that eventually we'll live in a metaverse where we can have avatar and we can play the game, we can work together, and we can have the same kind of experiences what we do in real life? So, do you think metaverse will exist eventually? What Facebook is betting on?
So, don't you think that Facebook has already done that? Like we have more friends on Facebook than actual friends, right? We don't talk to our friends from past on call or meet in person, but we chat with them on Facebook, right? Or like their photos or do that, right? So it's already in some form, it's already happening. Probably more with a Google Glass kind of version or Facebook Glass kind of version, we can do it more like in an immersive experience way, but it's already happening.
The medium will change. So what this means is
medium will change. Yes.
Medium will change, but it's already happening. And I'd encourage everyone who has not watched to go ahead and watch a movie named Ready Player One. It was actually directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, you'll absolutely love
one of the most favorite movie. I mean, that's why I really joined this AR/VR world, I can say. Yeah, awesome movie. Yeah, please.
So absolutely, I think Professor Mayank is right. It's already happened. The medium will change. It'll keep changing, right? So they'll keep happening. Mixed reality, AR, VR. Next step, maybe going beyond to when we have the brain, machine interfaces ready. We had Dr. Deepak show us. I'm very sure it'll move to that as soon as, but it's already there.
Yeah,
in terms of Hollywood movie for that also, right? where you just have to sleep, and based on your brain signals, you actually interact with everyone else.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
the metaverse should happen. There's just too much momentum in the space, and we work with animation a lot. And some of the animations we work on, they look like real people because we're seeing such high frame rates, you're seeing such high quality graphics and animations. It's going to be a pretty compelling experience in the not too
Great.
distant.
Awesome. In terms of the voice bot and all, like, what do you think? Like, robotics also trying to have all this, high quality voice interface and all. How do you think about robotics movement? Like, how good robotics can be in coming years, and how HMI would be there in terms of this robotics and all.
So I spent the last 6 years of my life building a robotics company, and we kind of really pioneered the food robot space. And after us, there were now there's 30 companies in the space trying to make robots which make pizza and
I want
burgers and all
that
that.
robot, Deepak.
I'm sorry.
I want that pizza robot, Deepak.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about this thing company, Robotics. And oh, wow. Luckily, I met you today, Deepak. So it's like a good hype. I really enjoy that news that time. Robotics.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to work on a food robotics company because when you want to hire employees, you can promise free food 24 hours a day, and that normally works.
Yeah.
But going back to robotics, right? The space has seen a lot of momentum the last 5 years. There's now robots doing a whole bunch of things, doing deliveries, making food. I know friends who are building robot dishwashers. And then there's general purpose robots which clean your house. I have friends who build gardening robots. You see a lot of them, but the VC community is not as interested in investing in robotics anymore because they get higher returns from software compared to hardware devices. And so when you don't have so many VCs investing in the space, you see a lot of companies raise money from crowdfunding and things like that. A lot of hardware companies are now raising money from crowdfunding. And that's going to limit the growth, right? If you're not having the VC community going all in because the returns aren't as high as software, that's going to limit the growth of robotics. But all these robots, in terms of interfaces, they take the best interfaces you can find. Right now, a lot of the robots are controlled with touch screens. We try to put voice into our robots, but it's hard to understand accents all across America. And if we don't have 100% recognition, people get annoyed when you have a consumer product. So when voice becomes mature, you'll see a lot of robots use voice as the interface.
Yeah, very true, very true. So, I mean, there are a lot of things going on in the market regarding the voice interface and all. So, robotics and the AR, VR stuff and all, devices and all. So, what is the biggest opportunity for industry in terms of creating the next level of Siri, next level of HMI? What can be the next version of Siri?
So I think I'll go back to my movie reference again and talk about Jarvis. Right. So, all of us have been fascinated by Jarvis in Iron Man, right? So being at the center of this, in what we do, our vision is to build that to help employees, pink collars, white collars, save a lot of their time spent in something that does not require their brain power or creativity, right? So we did a lot of research and figured out there are three things that, every human does while working, right? Number one is collecting the right information to take a decision. Number two is making that decision. It's generally a mathematical model for things that can easily be done in a black and white manner. It's a mathematical model. For gray areas, you'll of course still need the human creativity. And the third thing is simply the action itself, right? So to distill it down, as we move forward in terms of the world and we get more data access, we have technology today to make a lot of mathematical decisions happen for the black and white areas. And third is via robotics and via integration into other applications. I think things come together.
Yeah, great. We got question from an audience now. Audience is asking about each of these technologies seem to involve a lot of initial investment. how can a first generation entrepreneur get started in this field? Like robotics and AR VR devices, AR VR or NLP, NLU and all look like a costly kind of deal. So how can a first time entrepreneur manage that?
So I can talk about how we did it. So I think one of the ways to solve for this is to look at a problem that is very 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 niche, right? So as soon as you try and go broad, there are two problems that you face. A, it requires heavier investment, and you most likely will get beaten up by the big players. And the second is it might just be, if you're going for hardware, it might just be very very expensive investment as well, right? So the way we did it was to focus on one domain. So we started off Lean with the vision of building a city for the enterprise, but we focused and created only for one department, that is HR. And now we are expanding back to other domains after having raised a bunch of money, right? So I think that's one way of doing it. I of course let Dr. Deepak and Professor Mayank to comment as well.
Yeah. We just 2 minutes. Deepak, let's.
Yeah, in terms of first-time entrepreneurs, I think it's good for them to get their own personal hands dirty. Building a company used to be one where you had 2 or 3 people sitting in a garage and building something. What's happened the last few years is people try to scale to 100 people or 1,000 people in very little time. You don't need a lot of people to start a startup. A startup needs 1 or 2 highly motivated people working very efficiently and getting things done. And if you're working on software, it doesn't cost much. So just get your hands dirty, learn different skills so that you can do a lot of the work yourself. Get to a place where you have good prototypes. And then once you have some good prototypes and you get some initial revenue, it's pretty easy to raise money.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, Mayank. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I agree with what Deepak mentioned. Get your hands dirty. Probably one of the areas which may require lesser initial investment would be AI plus mixed reality. Probably that's a area. Means don't jump into robotics. Don't jump into medical robotics, right? So or neural links, right? So those are like would require a initial huge investment. Plan your
True. So that's why I started a company called Wow EXP having AI and mixed reality both. So I handle both technology, AI and AR VR. So I mean, I think I would like to give to Vikalp now. I think we are done with the times, right? And I think very smartly Deepak, Professor Mayank, and Adit covered everything. I really thank all of you to really give insight in terms of the HMI and all the relevant technologies. I hope that audience has got good insight and good informations for their career and the HMI exploration. Yeah, Vikalp.
Thanks a lot, Deepak. It was really a very informative session. And Deepak, Dr. Deepak, Dr. Mayank, and Adit as well. This was very eye-opening. I personally, as an entrepreneur, appreciate a lot of this advice. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.